Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
down, please arrange your seats properly and pick up the pieces under. Okay, so cleaning up. So may I check your attendance first and raise your hand and say present once your name is called. So Miss Teresa, Laika, and Angel. Okay, so now who can tell me the classroom's rules before we start? Okay, Miss Teresa, please.
So first, respect everyone in the classroom, including the teachers and students. Second, lesson control. Attentively when someone is speaking and avoid interrupting others. Third, be on time for class and be prepared with all necessary materials. Then keep the classroom clean and tidy and dispose of any trash in appropriate place. Fifth, avoid distracting behaviors such as eating, using cell phones or other electronic devices. Then follow all the instructions given by the teacher and ask questions if anything is unclear. And lastly, participate actively in the class discussions and group activities.
Okay, thank you for recalling our classroom rules. Please take a seat. So now, let's have a recap first about the topic that we have discussed yesterday. Anyone who can recall it? Yes, Ms. Laika, can you please tell us the topic that we discussed yesterday?
Mom, our topic was all about boys.
Okay, so our last topic is about voice. Now, who can give me the definition of voice? Okay, Miss Angel, can you give us the definition of voice?
Voice is the term used to describe whether a verb, activity, or passive.
Okay, very good, Miss Laika and Miss Angel, for recalling our last topic. So let's give them a round of applause. So the term voice is a term that is used to denote the form of the verb, which shows if the subject in a given sentence is the doer or receiver of the action. So the voice of a verb describes a relationship between the action and the participants in a sentence. So class, yesterday we discussed about voice, right?
Yes, Mom.
So you have already learned about voice. And today, before we proceed to our next topic, I want you to listen for a short shino. So today, before we proceed to our next topic, I want you to listen for a short scenario. So, Carl saw a beautiful woman. He went to talk to her, but her husband arrived and got angry at what he saw. The husband hit Carl on his belly. So question, what did the husband do? Okay, Miss Angel?
The husband hit Carl on his belly.
Okay, that's correct. Then the second question is what happened to Carl? Yes, Miss Laika?
Carl is hit by the husband.
Yes, that's correct. And notice on the sentences on the slide, analyze its difference. It tells whether it is in the form of active and passive voice. That is what we're going to discuss right now. But before that, these are
Angel,
but before that, these are our objectives for today's wait lang.
Inhale, exhale.
Papaspasan mo. But before that, these are our objectives for today's discussion. Kindly read Miss Teresa.
Differentiate active and passive voice. Recognize the pattern in an active voice and passive voice sentence, and rewrite the sentence. Differentiate active and passive voice. Recognize the pattern in an active voice and passive voice sentence, and rewrite the sentence, changing the voice from active to passive voice.
Okay, thank you. Now, before I proceed to my discussion, who can give me a definition of the first voice, which is the active voice? Yes, Miss Angel?
Active voice is used to indicate that the subject of the sentence is the door of the action.
Okay na to, okay na. Sige, balik, doer. Sige, balik.
Active voice is used to indicate that the subject of the sentence is door of the action.
Okay, yes. The active voice in a sentence denotes that the noun or a pronoun that acts as the subject in a sentence is the doer of the action. In other words, the subject performs the action or acts upon the verb. So according to Oxford Learner Dictionary, the active voice is defined as the form of verb in which the subject is the person or a thing that performs the action. And according to Collins Dictionary, the active voice is defined as a voice of verbs used to indicate that the subject of a sentence is performing the action or causing the event or process described by the verb. So in the following sentences, note the form of the verb when the subject is the doer of the action. So first is, a student wrote the winning essay. The second, Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone. And the third one is, the chef prepared a delicious meal. So now my question is, what are the subjects in the sentences? Yes, Miss Laika?
Student Alexander Graham Bell cake.
Yes, correct. Observe that the subjects, student, Alexander Graham Bell, chef, are the doers of the actions. So now, what are the verbs used? Yes, Miss Teresa?
Wrote, invented, and prepared.
Very good. And those verbs are transitive verbs with direct objects. Thus, when the subject of the sentence does, the subject of the sentences is the doer of the action, and therefore, we can say that the sentence is in the active voice. And take note, the active voice has a direct, clear tone, and use it when you want the reader to focus on the subject of your sentence and action it is doing rather than the action's target. Then, let's have the second type of voice, which is the passive voice. Who can give me the definition of passive voice? Yes, Miss Angel?
Passive voice is when the action expressed by the verb is received by the subject.
Yes, that's right. The passive voice represents that the subject is one acted upon by the action or verb in a sentence. It can be also said that the passive voice indicates that the subject in the sentence is no longer active but passive. So according to Oxford Learner's Dictionary, the passive voice is defined as the form of verb used when the subject is affected by the action of the verb. And according to Collins Dictionary, the passive voice is formed using be and the past participle of the verb. The subject of a passive clause does not perform the action expressed by the verb, but it is affected by it. So remember that the object of the sentence in an active voice become the subject now to the verb.
Di ako lang mag-glasses ba? Sige.
Remember that the object of the sentence in the active voice become the subject now of the passive voice. So now, study the following sentences. The winning essay was written by a student. The telephone was invented by Graham. The telephone was invented by Alexander Graham Bell, and the delicious meal was prepared by a delicious meal was prepared by the chef. So in each sentence, observe that the subject is the receiver instead of being the doer of the action. Note that the form of the verb when the subject is the receiver, not the doer of the action, is made up was plus past participle of the verb. And thus, if the subject is acted upon, the verb is in the passive voice. Okay, is everything understood?
Yes, ma'am.
So here's another example. The award-winning chef prepares each meal with loving care. So in passive voice, each meal is prepared with loving care by award-winning chef. So in the above example of an active sentence, the simple subject is chef and prepares. It is a verb, and the chef prepares each meal with loving care. And if, on the other hand, in the passive sentence, meal is the simple subject and is prepared is a verb. So each meal is prepared by the award-winning chef. So in effect, the object of the active sentence becomes the subject in the passive sentence. So now, after grasping about active and passive voice, who can give me the difference between the two? Okay, Miss Teresa.
An active voice is when the subject of the sentence performs the verb's action. On the other hand, the passive voice is when the subject is acted on by the verb.
Yes, that's right. But there are a few points that you have to bear in mind when using the active voice and the passive voice. So in an English language, the active voice is used generally as they give the information in direct and clear manner. So make sure you do not use the passive voice just because you think it sounds better. Use it only if it is necessary, and remember that the active voice has the subject doing the action and the passive voice has the subject receiving the action. So if you want to communicate your thoughts and ideas clearly and effectively, especially in a professional setup, it would be best to use the active voice. So here are the pro tips for you to master the active voice and the passive voice, to know the structure and formula by which they work. So in active voice, subject plus verb plus object. And in passive voice, object plus verb plus subject. So analyzing the difference between the active voice and the passive voice is what will help you in a much better way to learn how to use the two voices effectively. So take a look at this following table to know how they differ. So in the left side, we see the active voice. So it denotes that the subject is performing the action. While in the passive voice, it denotes that the subject is acted upon by the verb or action in the sentence. And the second one is the active voice does not require a linking verb to make sense. While in passive voice, the passive voice uses a linking verb followed by the past participle of the main verb. And the third one, active voices focuses on the doer of the action, and the passive voices comes in handy when the doer of the action is undetermined. And of course, the active voice has a direct, clear, and strong tone, while in passive voice has an indirect, weak, and subtle tone. So for examples, in active voice, I decorated the home. while in passive voice, the hall was decorated by me. And another example is Devi gave Shanti a gift. And in passive voice, Shanti was giving a gift by Devi. So,
Wait lang.
so there are a few other points that you have to know so that you can use the two voices effectively. So they are as follows. So number one, when converting a sentence in an active voice to a passive voice, the first thing that you have to do is interchange the subject and the object. And the next part of speech you have to focus is on the verb. So when converting an active voice into the passive voice, you just have to convert the main verb into its past participle or its third form. So the third form of the main verb is the past participle form of the verb. So number three is when you are changing the tense of the main verb, make sure you use an auxiliary verb which maintains the tense of the sentence represents. And always use the preposition by before the subject in a passive sentence. And lastly, if there are any adverbs used in the sentence with an active voice, be sure to include it in the passive voice as well. Do not just drop it when you convert a sentence in an active voice to passive voice or vice versa. So here are another examples of active and passive voice. So given below are a few examples of how to convert an active voice into the passive voice. You can take note so that the next assessment will guide you with this. Wait. Wait lang. Yung siguro magkaroon list. So here are other examples of active and passive voice. So here are other examples of active and passive voice. So here are other examples of active and passive voice. So given below are a few examples of how to convert the active voice into the passive voice. So in active voice, Twinkle likes adventure stories. So when we convert it to passive voice, it becomes adventure stories are liked by Twinkle. So other example is Lata is learning French this year. So in passive voice, French is being learned by Lata this year. And active voice, Court has brought macarons. And macarons has been brought by her. And in active voice, Siddharth played cricket. And in passive voice, cricket was played by Siddharth. So as you can see, or as you can notice, in passive voice, the word by is always present, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now, when should you use active and versus passive voice? So use the active voice in any sentences that focuses on the doer of the action, unless the majority of your writing is scientific or reporting incidents involving unknown perpetrators. Most of the sentences you write should be in active voice. And the passive voice is meant for sentences where you need to emphasize the target of an action or the action itself rather than who or what is performing the verb. And next is how do you change passive voice to active voice? So to change the passive voice to active voice, determine who is actually performing the action in the sentence. Then, restructure the sentence so that the performer is the focus and clearly performing the verb upon the sentence's direct object. So now that you have seen a number of examples and learned how the conversation is done, try converting the following sentences as directed. Please get one whole sheet of paper and I will give you 15 minutes to answer. Okay, class, are you done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so check out if you did the conversation right from the answers given below. Can you exchange the paper, please? Okay, so done. So, very impressive. I am very happy that all of you are participating and got a higher scores. I can see your motivation to learn this topic. So with your assignment, in a one short bond paper, write a brief description of art that you or one of your friends created and use both active and passive voice verbs, and underline the sentences where active and passive voice is used, and it should be handwritten. So that's all. You can leave.
That's all.
So, hold on. It was too much. Okay. Okay, everything. Okay. Nag-mute naman ang tanong sa ako. Nagkamay na siguro Goodbye, class.
Goodbye and thank you, Miss Griffin.
Okay, thank you. Ay, salamat talaga, Diyos.
Tulala.
Mana? Thank you. Oh, ikaw na, Kain?
Ya po, uy. Mugko mo nga sila. 32 mga